Good morning. It is Monday, August 5th, and it's time for the Monday News Brief. Hey everyone, welcome back again to another episode of the Monday News Brief, brought to you by CDTTV, a part of the Central Dakota Times. I'm your host again, Nate Iverson, and this week we have another CHS alumni sharing their story of going out into the world and then making their way back home to set their roots down. We have Cody Schumacher, a graduate of 2010, coming on the show to share with us his story. I would like to note, though, we had a little bit of a camera issue on the first few minutes of the episode. It does clear up, though, so bear with us and we'll get you the content. And as always, be sure to check out the Central Dakota Times every Wednesday morning wherever newspapers are sold in Central South Dakota. Let's get to the interview. Well, hey, Cody, thanks for being on for starters.
Thank you.
Yeah, and again, obviously, I just said your name was Cody, but tell me about yourself, man.
Cody Schumacher, born and raised in Chamberlain, lived here all my life, and went to school, Chamberlain, and I don't know about it. Work at St. Joe's now, IT, so...
Oh, cool.
Yep.
Yep. So what year did you graduate then from high school?
I graduated in 2010.
Oh, you're only a year below me. You're ahead of me.
I'm ahead of you. Yes.
Right, in 2011. Okay,
right.
Cool. Awesome. So let's just start with after high school and then kind of bring it back around, because obviously,
okay.
the whole point of these interviews is to, you went out into the world, kind of figured out what you wanted to do, and then we're going to loop it back. So let's just start, graduation day and maybe a little bit before you started thinking about what you wanted to do. I'm guessing you've kind of always had an interest in technology, at least from what I've known you from.
Yeah. Yep.
So just tell me about, what got you into IT, where you went for education, how that all kind of panned out.
So, 2010... everybody's thinking about what you're doing and what you want to be doing. And actually, I had no thing. I didn't want to really do IT. I actually wanted to go to MTI to be culinary and to be a cook. So I kind of, thinking about that, I was like, okay, yes, I like cooking. I like food. I like to cook food. It's pretty cool. But in the back of my head, something was saying okay, well, cooking feels more like a hobby instead of a real job to me. Mm-hmm. So maybe a month, 2 months before college would start, I decided, did a 180 turn and did telecommunications at Mitchell Tech.
Okay.
So going from cooking to technology, I always had a little bit of technology. I always loved to mess with stuff, play some games when I was younger, but nothing this is what I want to do. So I was like, oh, let's go with it. This seems more of a work thing that I can do other than cooking. Well, it seems more like a hobby to me.
Right.
So I did telecommunications. I graduated in 2013 from MTI with an Associates of Applied Science in telecommunications. After that, I went to a internship at Venture Communications in Highmore. Did my 400 and some hours with them. And then after that, they had a contractor company that was working for them at the time. I actually went and got hired through them. So I did work with a company called Clearwater Technologies out of Clearwater, Minnesota. Traveled all across the United States doing fiber installation jobs. Mm-hmm. Installing people IPTV, cutting over new houses, all kinds of stuff. Did a year and a half of that. And the biggest thing was being outside working. It wasn't too difficult, but they pretty much kept you up north, and there was a crew that could go specifically down south. I never got on that crew. I hated the negative 30, 40 degree weather. And so I said, nope. I decided I'm going to go back to school, and I'm going to go for information systems technology. So bring 2015 around. Summertime, South Dakota, enjoying it, working. And I just told my boss, I said, I'm going to go back to college and do another associate's degree. And so June 2015, I said, hey, signed up for information systems technology, and now graduated that in 2017 and started St. Joe's. I did an internship for them in the summer of 2016.
Okay.
So that's how I kind of got there. And then basically when I was going back to school, they offered me to come work. I didn't have to go to school on Fridays, so they offered me to come work at St. Joe's on Fridays. So I came back every Friday from Mitchell. It's an hour drive. It's not that bad.
Right.
And did that. So after I graduated from college, they basically said, do you want to work here full time? And I, going to job interviews and everything, already did it. Didn't really want to go through that again. So for somebody to offer me a job, that was kind of a no-brainer for me.
Right.
So, and being back in my hometown, I know a lot of people. Like, it was no-brainer for me. I didn't really want to go to Sioux Falls. Didn't want to stay in Mitchell any longer than I already have.
Mm-hmm.
I could have went out of state. No problem doing that either. Traveling 3 years ago all across the United States, it's very easy to adapt in different places. But I just wanted to stay home.
So. Right. And I think too, especially people our age, we can kind of relate to this. The job market now and the whole job application process is a completely different animal from what it was even, 15, 20 years ago. It's basically there's a pile of resumes and you kind of almost, they're just flipped through within, 30 seconds. You're basically shucking out 20.
Yeah, you just
resumes.
I put resumes out all over. I'd get 5 or 6 people call back. Yep. And after that, it's then, we got a lengthy process. It's, in and out realistically so the whole point of a resume now, I feel like, is if your cover letter does not sell who you are, it's gone. It's 30 seconds and they're gone. If you plan anything more than 30 seconds or put a lot of time into it and stuff, they look at it for 30 seconds. It's crazy. It's one of our teachers said in MTI that basically your best thing you can do is do an elevator speech. 30 seconds, 45 seconds.
Pre-canned.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sell it like that into, a cover letter, because have your resume on the back. 7 out of 10, they're not actually going to look at your resume by the time they're done with your cover letter. So just sell it there and hopefully it works.
Street knowledge.
Yep.
Real world experience. So, and again, I'm kind of relating at the same time. It's almost like the perfect mix of, you don't really have to go and reinvent yourself moving elsewhere. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's some benefits to living in South Dakota. No sale or income tax.
Right.
For starters. Rent is cheaper. And then just coming back to your hometown, it was an easier adjustment. The job was here. It was kind of the perfect mix, you'd say.
Right, yeah. So, being in a traveling job, I got to go to a lot of big cities and I got to go to a lot of small cities where, you get everything and you get nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So, overall, it was, if I had a job that offered me something in California, taking into aspect, okay, what is their housing market? How much more is it going to cost me? Oh, so you're telling me that this amount of money equates to this much there, where here it equates to this much. Now,
right.
Obviously, we're in Chamberlain, South Dakota. We're kind of in the middle of nowhere. We got a few big cities and towns around us, but if you don't mind driving an hour in any direction or 2 hours, you're pretty much good to go anywhere.
Right.
So
it's funny too, because that is something that people from East Coast or West Coast, driving more than 10 minutes anywhere, they don't do it.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen.
10 minutes in a city is completely different from 10 minutes here.
Right. 10 minutes here is to 12 miles. In
exactly.
A city, it's, 5 blocks.
Right. So that's a really big, I think, deterrent. And when people say, wow, you drive an hour to get to somewhere, it's like, yeah, but it's not that much,
Right.
But in a city, an hour is awful.
Yeah. So really, would it be fair to say the city really just didn't do much for you? It's cool to go visit.
Yes, exactly. It's cool to go visit. It's cool to go see. But if I lived in a city 100% of the time, I just would get sick of it, I think. Here, went out to California 3 years ago. That was very fun. Got to go see it. But after 3 days there, I was just done. I was like, the driving there, it's its own beast. It's its own thing. People say, oh, city drive's not that bad. Well, when you get to a big city, it's a little different.
Right.
It's not scary. It's not hard. It just takes a little bit to get acclimated to. And, I don't want to do that every day. I don't want to sit there and have a 40-minute commute there and back where I can get a 5-minute commute and, get 5 minutes back to home after work.
Right.
Instead of, here I'm stuck in traffic for 40 minutes.
So, I mean, that gives us kind of a pretty good picture of where you're at now and kind of your mindset behind everything.
Mm-hmm.
But let's back it up to high school. What would you say your experience was? So you would have been a freshman in 2006.
2006, yeah.
Yeah. So how would you kind of summarize your high school experience as far as, in a nutshell?
Man, so overall, I mean, high school is high school, You look at it now and you're like, it was, it was an okay experience, and then you hear, you compare it to what you see, online, to what other people say or how other people talk about that you meet, of, their high school experience and your high school experience, and you're kind of like, mine wasn't really that bad. I think Chamberlain is a okay high school. I mean, it's pretty normal. You have your cliques, you have, people, like, you basically have all your cliques from high school.
Yeah.
Essentially. Like, so you get a little bit of, you can watch a movie and you're like, oh, that's so-and-so. Like, it's just kind of weird to watch them movies and then you're like, oh, that was so-and-so back in the day and that was this group. And, like, I don't think Chamberlain really had the extent of, like, Mean Girls or anything, or, like, Super Jocks or anything like that.
Right. It was kind of that thing where you kind of knew whoever, you didn't necessarily know everybody, but you knew who they were. And it
right. Exactly. And we're talking, like, our Chamberlain High School, my class was 42. Yours was probably a little bit bigger, I think.
I think it was 62?
Yeah. So I was like, we're talking, when there's other people that I've talked to and through life, I'm talking about kids that have 400 kids in there. And it's like, they're like, it's way different. So I'm like, for me, it's not that bad. It's 42 people. I knew every single one of them, you know? I might not be a best friend to them, but I at least know them.
Right.
So it's like, no one had bad blood towards each other or anything. It wasn't, just some kids hanging out in high school, really. Yeah.
That's honestly, every single alumni we've interviewed so far has said pretty much the same thing. They're like, it wasn't that bad. Everyone always says, and I think we had Dave Wilrod on last week. He said, I think you only really see that in bigger schools.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure there's outliers, small schools that have that issue, but he was like, it wasn't bad.
Yeah, it's not, I mean, there was not much bullying, not much gossip. I mean, nothing was that, it was pretty mellow. Like, it's...
And I mean, those things still existed, but it wasn't
right, but not
to
not to the extent of now, or not to, like, the extent that you would see in, like, a movie or a TV show where it's so over dramatized. Like, now, somebody called somebody fat one day, and then it kind of went through the school, like, just things like that. I don't know. I didn't see. I don't know. Look back on it now, I don't think it was that bad of a high school experience.
Yeah.
Like, during that time as a kid, you're like, oh no, like, everything's going down, this is crazy, or did you hear about so and so? That's crazy. And so now you're like, oh, I can't believe I freaked out about that.
Right. So a lot of people say they can't wait to leave too.
Right. I think a lot of people that say that, like, I mean, I was one of them. I was like, I can't wait to get out of Chamberlain,
Yep.
And now you look at it, and as you grow older, you're like, well, it's not that bad. Like, and you look at it from the standpoint of future or present. Like, if I had a kid currently right now, I would not fear my kid walking 10 blocks, 20 blocks around Chamberlain.
Right.
Like, if back in our day, same thing. I walked all over town, day, night, 4 a.m., all around town. Like, so if I were to see myself have a kid in this town, same thing. I do not feel any threatened or worried about it. So
right, it's a small
town, and when people say they want to get out of it, I think when they do get out of it, it's pretty crazy to, in 3-4 months, maybe a little bit longer, like, they're going to be like, oh, Chamberlain's not that bad.
Right.
Like,
well, it's one of those things too. It's almost like a lot of the adult problems, bills, social life, you're going to see most of that in any environment, no matter what.
Yep.
And so it's kind of just one of those things.
Yeah. I think overall, if a kid thinks that Chamberlain's a terrible town, just wait till you get into bigger towns and stuff, and you'll kind of be like, wow, not that bad. I'm kind of like my little hidey hole of Chamberlain.
So where would you kind of? I know you're talking about kind of the cliques and everything. Where would you kind of place yourself in the Chamberlain High School? I don't want to say hierarchy.
Hierarchy of Chamberlain. Oh man, I don't know. I think so. Like obviously in Chamberlain, I don't know if it's the same, but back in the day, you had everybody's lunch tables. Like
Yeah.
I mean, you remember the lunch tables? Like I never sat at one lunch table in particular.
Mm-hmm.
I would go to everybody's lunch table different days of the week. So, and I think like hierarchies and stuff. That's kind of just I don't know weird to say because with the class of 42, like that is not a lot of people. So
Right.
I never really considered myself an outcast or a jock or a popular or I kind of just was somebody that knew a lot of people. So I could hang out with any group, and fit right in with them.
Yeah.
So and I think that is also to go with, when you grow up with kids in the same school and you don't move, like you kind of just third grade are not your same friends as sixth grade.
Right.
But you still remember them from childhood. So
Sure.
I would say overall, I kind of just in the middle and hung out with everybody.
Yeah.
So,
Speaking of kind of where you fit, did you do any extracurriculars? I guess.
no, in high school, not really. I pretty much just choir, pretty much.
Okay. So the arts kind of.
Yeah, a little bit of drama club too. So.
Okay. How about academia? Who is your favorite? I guess what was your favorite class? Who would be some of your favorite teachers?
I like Mr. Winter's computer class. That was pretty fun.
Okay.
Hanging out in study hall with Mr. Steckelberg and Mr. Hamill. That was pretty fun too because all I gotta do is read books. So.
Oh, there you go.
And government class is pretty fun. Arts class. I mean, there weren't very many classes I hated in Chamberlain.
Mm-hmm.
I think the part I hated the most was daily work. Like, I've never liked daily work. So,
Sure.
when it comes to test time, I can ace that test.
Yeah.
No problem. But daily work, hated it.
Just the mundane.
Yeah, exactly. The mundane, same thing over and over and over. Could not do it. So, like, I never hated a class. I never loved a class, a whole
Right.
bunch. It was kind of just going day by day. Oh, what am I doing in this class? What am I learning here? What am I learning there?
Yeah.
So, I'd say every class I pretty much liked, but definitely Mr. Winters and Mr. Steckelberg's study hall were probably two of my favorite.
All right. Cool. How about, I guess our answers might be kind of similar here. I could probably relate, like pop culture stuff.
Wow, pop culture. So, like...
I just want to throw out RuneScape right off the...
Yeah. So, obviously, there was a huge group of people that played that game in that school. I mean, there was kids above our grade, below my grade, you guys.
Yeah.
Everybody played that game for a while. So, man, pop culture, huh? I mean, 303 was huge, music-wise. Owl City.
Wow.
Katy Perry. We're throwing, Lady Gaga just came out. I mean, Lil Wayne was rapping. And
Yep.
so, pop culture-wise, we were kind of, our age group, that 5 years was kind of the big change in pop culture is what I feel like.
Yeah.
I think now what you look at currently for kids and pop culture are influencers on social media.
Sure.
Where we never had that. We had, it was celebrities doing crazy things. Britney Spears had her breakdown
Leave
shit.
Britney alone.
Yeah. So that was going on. Barack Obama was elected in 2008.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't consider that too much pop culture, but
it was a big thing.
Yeah, it was a big thing. I remember there was, that was all you ever saw on the news. And so other than that, I feel like with pop culture and art, it was just, there's so much stuff going on at that time. It's hard to really recap, thinking about it. I was like, man, what went on in there? It's everything went on. Kardashian stuff was going on. Mm-hmm. All different kind of reality TV was becoming a big thing. Now reality TV is still big, but I mean, back in our day, it was just starting to grow.
I think you kind of put it right. It was the transition to a new
right
era of
Right, like old TV shows such as like Friends, Seinfeld, them kind of comedy shows. They were kind of there's still a few like I think
The Office.
Yep, The Office came and I think did Big Bang start back then? I don't think it did.
I think so. I think How I Met Your Mother was coming to an end. It was in its last season.
So like basically like these TV shows that you watch every night and stuff. There were some good ones going on at the time, but reality TV was taking over. I remember like there's also a transition. I don't know if it was like my sophomore year or junior year, where MTV Music in the Morning, VH1 Music in the Morning.
Yep.
Do you ever see them anymore?
Exactly.
I if you do, it's like 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. I'm remembering. I'm like, oh, it's
you wake up for it.
Yeah, it's 7:55, and I'm gotta leave for school, and I'm still like, oh no, there's 4 music videos left. Like, and so now kids don't. I don't think they do that and see that. Like I remember waking up for that or staying up, late for a late show, even though I didn't pay attention to them. Like, I think pop culture for us was a definite change. We just back then we didn't pay attention to it as much.
Right.
Now you look back on it and you're like, wow, them were the biggest things ever.
So and I know we kind of were discussing it a little bit before, but what are some of maybe the noticeable differences with today's high schoolers, teenage years?
To like us?
Yeah.
So like gaming, one. So we were into gaming. The Xbox 360 was, I think, either just came out or it was gonna come out.
Yep.
I remember I stayed up at Walmart midnight to get that. But now, I think every kid goes home and plays games now. So like Fortnite right now you have, and that is, I can talk to my 11-year-old cousin and we can talk the same exact kind of talk because of that game.
Yeah.
I think another thing with kids from now and our age, even though that is 10, 15 years, is social media. When we were going to school, Facebook was just starting to become a thing. I remember MySpace. I'm trying to think of some of the other ones.
Everyone forgets about Bebo.
Yeah, Bebo. That was
6
another
months
one.
that Bebo had.
I mean, Bebo was huge for a little bit there.
Yep.
In MySpace, like I still had a MySpace account, and Messenger was used daily.
Yeah.
And then that got blocked at school, so everybody started using WeChat or something, and that got blocked. And then it was crazy because now it's, look at what Facebook is. We never got that. Ever.
Yeah.
Instagram, all these other social media platforms are just so easy and accessible with iPhones. I think the iPhone came out when we were in high school. Like, I'm pretty sure
it would have been near the end.
Somewhere in there, it went out. I was like, we still had flip phones. I mean, our form of messaging and texting was still handwritten notes folded up, or it was like, I don't know the specific term for it, but typing on your phone in your pocket,
right,
where you could memorize them. Like, it's always fun to like watch an older person pull out that cell phone, and then like 3 or 4 minutes into it, I'm texting on it normal, super fast, and I'm like, man, lost skill right there.
You can still use T9, like no one's business.
Exactly. Like, so I just think that's it's very different from where we were in where the kids are now, and that's only 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Like, and it's only going to get more advanced. We're talking kids that now teachers are using virtual reality in the classroom now. Like, that was in movies,
Yeah.
Like that was, it'll come one day eventually, but now it's like, wow.
You're seeing it.
Yeah, they're using virtual reality to have kids physically put a block into another block to create 2 blocks or whatever.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So I think, now and then it's just, it's crazy at 15 years where if we said 15 years from us, it'd be the almost identical, like, except for probably CD players,
Right.
Like, I burned so many CDs back in the day, and I knew how, so then everybody was saying, can you burn a CD for me? Can you burn a CD for me? Like, And now it's like, oh, well, I got Spotify or I got iTunes. And
Right.
I remember at the end of high school, everybody was on iTunes, or Groove Music.
Groove Shark?
Yeah, Groove Shark. There you go. Like, what is Groove Music now? Like, that's just crazy to think that Groove Shark was such a huge thing, and now it's called Groove Music, and it's no different from Spotify.
Yeah. It almost seems like, again, going back to what you were saying with the generational change. How much time do we have? Cut that. It almost seems like, again, going back to, like, you were talking about the generational gap. I always go back to Dave Lowright because it was kind of a perfect segue between his age and then it kind of went right into your age.
Right, yep.
He was kind of the end of I almost want to call it the analog, tangible, new technology. And then we were kind of, I always say we, but I mean your age too. It was kind of that bridge where, like, the tangible, manual things, you could go communicate with someone online, but you had to go get their information first.
Yes.
So there was still some physical, confrontation isn't the right word, but interaction. There was a physical interaction to get to the digital interaction.
So, like, now, like, with games like that we played, we would play a game called RuneScape, and it's an MMO, what is multi-massive online player game, basically.
Yeah, basically a bunch of people come together and
play
in an online space.
Right. So now that is essentially the most common form of gaming now.
Yeah.
Is now what you were talking about, like a LAN party, that's four friends sitting downstairs in our basement playing on the same screen, split 4 ways.
Yep.
Yelling at each other that you're looking at my screen. Like, that does not exist anymore. I remember there are games that, like, Halo 2, Halo 3, Call of Duty, specific ones, like, they had offline split player screen mode. I don't think any game that comes out now has that.
It doesn't.
Like,
and it was kind of that bridge, because again, you could do the split, or you could. Online was new.
Right, exactly. Online was something new. Like, we're talking a game called World of Warcraft was the same way. It was online. It was one screen. You were controlling it, and there were 100,000 other people playing.
Yeah.
And you had real interactions with them. Like, same thing with getting somebody's MSN Messenger. Like, you had to get their email address and their name and add them. Now it's just, here's my name, add me, in a text message. Or it's not a face-to-face, hey, don't forget to add me to Messenger, such and such and such.
We can just do a search now, too.
Right, and you can just search people. I mean, it's so technology-driven, and it always will be, that it's going to be crazy because of what we're in that perfect cusp of transition. Where, like, you were talking about David, how he is just a little bit before us, where it was still, very same. And then now we're talking where I can talk to my 11-year-old cousin and speak the same exact thing, same exact lingo. My 14-year-old cousin has Snapchat and Instagram and Facebook and everything. And it's just crazy that, like, we know the same exact stuff. Where if I'm talking to somebody 30 years older than me, we don't have much in common, but I'm talking to somebody almost 20 years younger than me, and we have so much in common. It's strange.
It's one of those things, everyone says, oh, my generation was better, or this generation was better. Like, I'm always going to be a strong proponent for the mid-2000s.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, it's not bad, the new generation. It's just different.
Yeah,
everything's processed differently. But then, you go back, let's talk about, 7 generations ago. Everything was completely different then, too. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things. I always see that, again, the question was, what are the differences? And that's what it was. And then it's just, everyone says, oh, we're, what is the world coming to? And it's just a matter of, we kind of had that nice balance of kind of understanding both of them and being able to navigate those waters.
Right. The crazy thing is, like, so we're talking, the whole generation talk is each generation has something over the other generation. Like, I think, for instance, like, this is going back a few generations, but my grandmother, like, writes in cursive. Like, I can write in cursive, I can read cursive, but, like, in 10, 15 years, is a kid going to be able to read cursive and write cursive? Like, I don't know. Do they even teach that in school anymore? Like, I remember we would have to write and have the paper with the dotted lines, and you have to write for, the whole class, 100 E's in cursive, 100 uppercase E's.
Yep.
Like, now I think kids just type and text, and they don't care about grammar and how to spell it. I mean, I'm not a grammar Nazi by any kind of means. Like, I really am bad at spelling. But, like, just in general, autocorrect was not a thing. Like,
right.
If I can get it close, I was going to correct it. That's how I feel like kids probably see it now, where back in the day, you had to be 100% correct in your spelling.
Right.
So I think that comes back to every generation has their ups and downs. The generation past of us probably more hardworking, where we're maybe a little bit more lax in that. The
right.
new kids, there's a new job coming out that's called influencer. Like, this was not around 10 years ago, where people are now asking, oh, well, if I get your product for a discount or some kind of lesser fee, I will make sure my 10 million subscribers know about it.
Yep.
And get you money. Like, that's not a job.
It's like
honestly.
private sponsorship.
Yes, exactly. It's not a job. Like, it's just a time in your life where people are following you because everybody's attached to their electronic device.
Right.
Like, so in our time, I don't really find having trouble getting off my phone and getting on my phone. Mm-hmm. But, like, I have noticed younger kids have very much of an issue getting off of their device. Like,
yep.
Where for me, it's like, oh, okay, I gotta go do something else. Like, I don't know. I just think each generation, our generation coming up next to us, they're gonna be amazing on technology. They're gonna, whatever we do, like, they're gonna just outdo us.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But we, for us, it was our generation had the transition of it. Like, the generation before built the footprints of it. So I think each generation to their own. People say that theirs is better or worse. I think that's because you lived in it. I'm living in a different one, so
exactly.
I'll have bias, but if you look at it overall, each generation has something they can be proud about or not proud of.
Chamberlain again, and the point of the interview and the alumni is, again, every alumni that we're interviewing, eventually made the choice to come back to Chamberlain, more or less set their roots down. People come and go, but they choose to come here. Mm-hmm. What's kind of your, we talked about elevator pitches. What's your 30-second resume elevator pitch for coming back to Chamberlain, South Dakota?
Wow. So, Chamberlain, I don't know, meeting people from around here that aren't from here, like, they always say, well, what's so great about Chamberlain? And I'm like, well, you got 4 seasons. Like, we get snow, we get heat, we get fall, we get spring, we get rain. Like, you got this river, you can go hunting and fishing. If them aren't your activities, there's enough stuff in town to do. Like, some people might say there's not, but there really is. As long as you're looking at it, there's stuff to do. Sure. Like, I think overall, we're kind of in this perfect little location where we get a little bit of everything. We're an hour, 2 hours away from any big city. Driving to South Dakota is no big deal.
Right.
Like, we overall, if you want to live in a big city, you can go to Sioux Falls for a weekend, and you can come back to a nice, quiet, peaceful town where nothing is going on, and you can relax. Mm-hmm. If you want to go be a country hick in mud bog, you can go mud bog. I'm not going to go say where Oklahoma Flats, but you can go mud bog for there. So you want to go fishing and hunting and any kind of outdoors activity, you are right here to go, good to go. So I guess that's my 30-second elevator speech.
Awesome. Cody, you're the longest interview I've ever done, man.
Woo!
So cool. Well, hey, thanks for being on and appreciate your time.
Yep, no problem.
Thanks again, everyone, for joining us for another episode of the Monday News Brief, brought to you by CDTTV, a part of the Central Dakota Times. If you like this content and want to see more, please consider becoming a subscriber to our YouTube channel, Central Dakota Times Newspaper. We're also available on Facebook at Central Dakota Times and on our brand new website, www.centraldakotatimes.org. We'll see you next week.